The Islamic State militant group has claimed responsibility for the suicide bombing at a pop concert in Manchester. 22 people are dead, including children, and about 60 others injured, some very seriously. British police have arrested a 23-year-old man in connection with the attack. As for the suicide bomber himself, here's what the Prime Minister had to say.
The police and security services believe that the attack was carried out by one man. But they now need to know whether he was acting alone or as part of a wider group. It will take some time to establish these facts, and the investigation will continue. The police and security services will be given all the resources they need to complete that task. The police and security services believe they know the identity of the perpetrator, but at this stage of their investigations, we cannot confirm his name.
This video was posted on Twitter shortly after the blast at Manchester Arena. It happened moments after pop star Ariana Grande wrapped up her concert at 10:30 p.m. local time. The attack happened in the foyer area, which is an enclosed space. The arena, capacity over 20,000, was packed with fans, many of them children and teenagers. Now, this was the deadliest terror attack in Britain since 52 people were killed in suicide bombings on London's transport system back in 2005. But it also reflects a recent trend of attacks on entertainment and sporting venues. Security at such places is being stepped up from Europe to the US, Japan and Singapore. Meanwhile, Ariana Grande, who had tweeted after the blast that she was, I quote, broken from the bottom of her heart, has reportedly suspended her world tour. And world leaders have been expressing their shock and horror at the bombing, with comments ranging from sickening to vile to cynical, because it targeted children and young people. Here is President Trump's reaction on the sidelines of a meeting with the president of the Palestinian Authority.
So many young, beautiful, innocent people living and enjoying their lives murdered by evil losers in life. I won't call them monsters because they would like that term. They would think that's a great name. I will call them from now on losers because that's what they are. They're losers.
Well, meantime, Singapore's leaders have written to express their condolences over the attack. In a letter to Queen Elizabeth, President Tony Tan Keng Yam says Singapore strongly condemns this vicious act, and he is certain the UK will stand firm in the face of adversity. Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong, writing to his counterpart Theresa May, calls the attack a senseless act of violence, adding that we must never allow such acts to divide our societies and bring fear to our daily lives. The Foreign Ministry says it has no reports of any Singaporeans injured or directly affected by the bombing. And we will go live to London for the very latest, and that's coming up in a few minutes. And getting back to our top story tonight, a suicide bombing that killed 22 people and injured close to 60 others at a pop concert in Manchester. Well, let's get the very latest now from our correspondent in London. Now, Ollie, can you perhaps tell us anything more about the 23-year-old man who's been arrested?
No, not really. The police here are not willing to confirm his identity at this stage. They say they have arrested a man in his 20s, and there was actually another arrest earlier in Manchester too, at a shopping centre called the Arndale Centre. But police were saying that they don't believe the arrest at the Arndale Centre was related to what happened at Manchester Arena overnight. The arrest of the other man, they say, was linked to their investigation into the Manchester Arena incident, but they're being cautious with any more detail beyond that. What we do tend to see in major terror episodes like these is that police officers do fan out across the region, and they will make arrests with people who they believe to be related in some way. Some people that are useful to talk to, but that doesn't necessarily mean they are central to any terror plot or even end up facing any charges. So police being very circumspect about identity.
Right. Now, apparently some concert goers have said that their bags were not checked. Are we looking at security lapses here?
Possibly, yes. Although those questions will be raised, we should point out that this explosion appears to have happened actually outside the auditorium itself, in the foyer of Manchester Arena. So perhaps if there was a level of soft security, it might be around the perimeter to the actual auditorium, rather than for people who headed inside the actual venue itself. Nonetheless, the explosion appears to have been so powerful in the foyer outside the venue that it had a huge effect on people coming out and also on people inside the auditorium itself. And certainly that will be part of the questioning that the security of the concert and the local police will now be facing in the coming days.
Now, it's pretty apparent that this attack was targeting young people, and what we're hearing is that some parents haven't even managed to track down their children who were at the show. Do you have anything on that?
Yeah, certainly there have been a lot of distraught parents trying to locate their children, and that is part of the reason that the naming of some of the victims has only recently started. We only have a couple of names in terms of the people who have died, because of course their relatives have to be found, contacted, their bodies have to be identified. So a desperately difficult time for the parents of children caught up in this episode. Of course, when the incident took place, many of the children would have been planning to meet their parents to get a lift home, to get a ride back to their house. But at that time, in that immediate aftermath after the explosion took place, officials and police were saying, please don't travel to the area, stay away while this incident is unfolding. Roads were blocked off, train services were stopped as well. So relatives and friends and family members were split up for a long period of time, making it very difficult indeed for people to track down some of their loved ones. And of course that makes this process even more difficult for those people who still haven't confirmed whether their relative or friend or family member is still alive or not, as the case may be.
Right, many thanks, Ollie Barrett, there giving us all the updates from London.